Filth, mold, abuse report condemns state of California homeless shelters. When she first moved into the Bridges at Kramer Place shelter, January was optimistic. The Southern California, but things quickly went downhill, said January, who asked that we only use her first name for fear of retribution over speaking out about the shelter conditions. Within a month, everything was rotten, she said. There was filth and Bridges at Kramer Place is one of 3 California shelters condemned for its bleak conditions in a new report from the ACLU. All are in orange. The ACLU report details a dizzying list of abuses and unlivable conditions, as reported by shelter residents, volunteers, and staff. The shelters were racked by infestations of rodents, roaches, bedbugs, and other pests, and plagued by a culture of neglect and abuse by shelter staff, the report alleges. The shelters fail to conform to standards set forth by international human rights law, which establish the minimum standard of living adequate for health and well-being, its authors write. To the extent that the county or its agents have subjected people experiencing homelessness using emergency shelters to foreseeable harm and failed to intercede, it is responsible for state-created danger. The report includes a list of 10 recommendations to improve shelter conditions, including uniform health guidelines and due process for sanctions within the shelter system. In response to the report, the county issued a statement saying officials are committed to ensuring our emergency shelters are safe for all our clients, and that they would take time to review the report before responding in detail. This is not the first time that Orange County has been criticized for its treatment of the homeless. Homeless advocates say the county and its cities are violating their responsibility to provide housing or, at a minimum, shelter beds for people living on the streets. Both the county, but that it is not just the availability of shelter beds but the quality of the shelters themselves that's important. Some of these violations are so egregious that they're just hard to digest, said Eve Garrow, a policy analyst at the ACLU of Southern California and co-author of the report. Shelters are supposed to be humane places that actually help people and help them recover from life on the streets, she said. It was rather shocking. In a few cases, residents have died on shelter premises. The report notes, it wasn't long after January moved into Kramer Place that she saw her first death. The man who died, he said to me, if I don't get out of here into housing, the only way he'll get out is in a body bag, January said. And that's exact. Essel died in a shelter bathroom in April 2018. January news, I'd been telling shelter staff, break down the door, something's wrong, she said. They didn't do anything. When they finally opened the door, Essel was found dead, January said. Did not respond to. Igmar Rodas is a former resident of the Courtyard, another shelter profiled in the ACLU report. Rodas, whose residents' personal property was kept in trash bins, Rodas said. One time I saw, let me put it this way. I interview people. The Courtyard referred a request for comment to the statement issued by Orange County. Both Rodas and January have moved into housing. Now by the grace of God, I got out, January said but because of their experience with the shelter system, they have both dedicated themselves to changing Orange County's shelter system for the better. Now I am blessed, but not everyone's blessed, January said.
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.